they will be saved, but if they do not, then they will face a disallowance on that. So you will have, in case that this doesn't fall, you will have a disallowance in PICO, you will have a disallowance in EMCO also. So these are the cases which we need to be a little careful about here. Okay, so I think we discussed this somewhere, but again we can just go through this case study also. Again, EMCO tax holiday unit. EMCO has ESCO is actually processing those goods and sells the same onward. It is a non-tax holiday unit. During the financial year 13-14, okay, EMCO charged ESCO 100 crores for the goods sold. Now we will look at a simulation of in case if the price ALP which is determined is either higher or lower, then what happens. So case 1, if the AO determines the ALP of the goods at 120 crores, then what are the implications in the hands of EMCO and ESCO? And what would be the implication if the AO were to determine the ALP from EMCO to ESCO as 80? So here would be the situation. In case of first, let's look at the EMCO scenario. If the AO determines that the ALP is 120, then what would happen is the issue would be he would not touch it because we are not earning more than ordinary profits. In case of EMCO, his concern would be he will have a power to touch you if he finds that you are earning more than ordinary profits, and he will reduce the tax holiday. But you are not earning more than ordinary profits, you are earning less, so he will not touch you. Parallelly, for ESCO, it will be relevant from 40A to B. But since the ALP determined is 120 and you are buying at 100, the 40A to B will not be hit.
28 for?
28 for whom? In terms of
taxability.
How would you just try and bring under
any benefit arising out of the business?
So would you say this is a benefit because you are paying for it?
Paying less.
Yeah, but paying less, okay, what happens is, when I actually see what happens, how you are paying less, here the concept for the purpose of 40A to B, they will say no disallowance will be made under this section if you are earning, so you are saying would it be a perquisite?
Any benefit?
I would say benefit would, it could be challenged, there is no doubt about it, but still I would say there would be strong grounds to say because you are buying a good and there is some kind of a...
in case of power also,
yeah,
power supplied at zero rate,
yeah,
to a taxable unit,
correct.
there can be a taxability under section 28(4).
Yeah, so
it says that there would not be an adjustment in other parties where there is an ALP is higher.
correct.
But in that case, there is no answer whether it would be taxable in my hand under section 28(4) or not.
Yes, no, I think it's a very relevant issue which you raised. But if you look at wherever the law wanted to make an adjustment with reference to the pricing, the benefit arising of pricing, they've introduced transfer pricing. So now, where any area there is a pricing advantage which happens, it will be very difficult to bring the perquisite valuation to that. So I think could be yes, somebody can try to use, but it may be a little difficult.
And in case of that power supply, he will have the value of power supplied to other party at ₹10 per unit.
Correct. That no. So if you are doing it zero, which is what I said in the example, is more to bring out a concept, not a kind of a real life situation, because it can never happen. But a concept would be as to what would be the implication. So again, would be relevant point in terms of purpose. But I still feel wherever the statute wanted any advantage to be factored in, they have brought transfer pricing to that. Now, if here there is a transfer pricing and I have 48 to be also, and the law says if I am buying lesser than that, then it's okay. Then why it should be considered as a perquisite? So I would feel there is a strong support to, but yes, very valid point to. Now let's look at a case where the ALP is determined at 80 of my sale. Yeah. So now what will happen is he will reduce my tax holiday. He will reduce my tax holiday. I have actually, if you look at it, so one second, let me just go back. Yeah. So he will reduce my tax holiday and bring it to tax. Again, if you look at it in terms of ESCO, since I have actually reduced, I should have actually bought it at 80, the processing cost, my taxable income increases to 18. So if you see that there's a double kind of a hit which happens in this scenario. So these are the cases which we should try and avoid getting into and just plan it around. So if you're under ALP within that small band, which is most critical now going forward. Okay. And just now, the summary of all the case studies is something brought out in these 3 illustrations. And if you keep this in mind, I think it will really drive home the perspective. And look at X limited, which is a non-tax holiday unit in all the scenarios. Y limited, again, it is non-tax holiday in the first, but tax holiday in the 2 scenarios. Now, when the sale happens from Y to X, okay, the sale is at 120. In all scenarios, we are looking at a sale at 120. In scenario 1, the ALP should have been 100. So now, there is going to be a disallowance in the hands of X under 48 rupees. Very clearly. Because X Limited has bought the goods at higher than ALP, which is 100 rupees the ALP, and they have bought it 120. So 20 rupees is going to be disallowed. Now let's go to the second illustration. Y Limited, the only difference is Y Limited becomes a tax holiday unit. Okay, now here again the sale is actually happening at 120 against an ALP of 100. So what will happen is the TPO will say that you should have sold the goods at 100, you have sold at 120, so you have got excess profit of 20. So 20 disallowed in the hands of Y. Now go to X Limited. You have bought the goods at 120 instead of 100, so he will get a disallowance of 20. So as a group, you have got a double disallowance of 20 plus 20, which is 40. Now let's say you become very conservative, so I don't want any litigation, I will now start dealing below ALP. Then what will happen? So Y is a tax holiday unit. Instead of selling at, let's say, you sell at 80, the ALP determined is 100. So what happens? Y Limited will enjoy lesser amount of tax holiday. The potential to actually earn the tax holiday was at 100, but now you are conservative, so you've lost the 20 rupee advantage and you are going to pay tax on that. For X Limited, they have bought it at lesser than the ALP, so for them there is no disadvantage. But in all 3 scenarios, if you look at it, all 3 scenarios, any scenario, if you do not deal at ALP, you are going to face some kind of a tax inefficiency. So the message is that going forward, for all the tax holiday units, the key thing is to make the corporates realize, the clients realize that the concept of FMP was different. Now we need to deal at ALP, and for that there is some element of work required. And if not, then it will come and haunt us a very big problem in the time to come. I think that's the end of my presentation, and I'll be happy to take any questions if there are.
Sir, in case interest-free loan is given by eligible undertaking to non-eligible undertaking, whether that would amount that the eligible undertaking has more than ordinary profits because it is not charged, it is not paying interest to the non-eligible undertaking.
No, so the eligible undertaking is
receiving loan from the non-eligible undertaking.
Yes.
And it is not paying any interest to the non-eligible undertaking.
Yes.
So whether this would amount that the eligible undertaking is earning more than ordinary profits?
Yeah. So there are 2 ways to look at it. One, if it is it is not a question of ATI 8 as I understand, because one unit and other unit, if you're talking about the same entity, it can be head office giving a loan to the, yeah. Essentially, if it's your own funds, there is no question of claiming a tax holiday or the interest deduction, so your tax holiday will not be impacted. But if you're borrowing, and that borrowing is directly linked to that particular unit, then I think we need to make a provision, allocate that interest in that particular unit.
Can I take a view that first investment is from my capital exempt and non-interest bearing?
So
because the courts have stated that if both are mixed and if there is no direct linkage, then you can argue that it is cost out of my non-interest bearing fund. Second thing, whether the loan is goods or service or not. That would also be another issue.
Yeah. Okay, so here I would not say that this interest allocation would be to the under coverage under ATI 8. It would be more under the ATI 5 and 6, where the section lays down you should compute the profit as if this was an independent only unit. So I would say yes, in this particular scenario ATI 8 may not trigger, but for the purpose of allocation, if that interest directly links to your, if you can demonstrate that is mixed, then you are actually getting on debate and how far best you can demonstrate your case more than 51% as the earlier speaker was saying. That's the litigation which goes on. But otherwise, I think you should allocate that particular interest. So thank you very much for your patient hearing. I really enjoyed talking to you today on this matter. Thank you.
Friends, before we conclude this session, I just